and things that I do. I had the pleasure of presenting or being part of a panel in the, I guess, late 2007, 10, something like that, when it comes to foreclosure at my alma mater, Nova Southeastern University. And I met this beautiful young man who was passionate about conflict resolution and technology. And we all kind of look at this guy like he's a weirdo because he was going all over the place with technology and how important technology was in mediation. And again, I've been doing mediation since 2000. I've been doing online stuff from 2005, I guess, but not to how he was talking. Nonetheless, he and I became very close friends. And his idea of enjoining technology and conflict was really avant-garde, not the norm or the usual. But guess what? It's here. It's not only here, it's becoming the new norm. Big data and all that other things that are going on that are dictating how things are given to us has been going on for decades, but we ain't know about it. Well, guess what? Dave has an idea and has an approach that I just really believe in and been trumpeting for a long time now. But now that COVID has put things in us, has put things, as I told you guys, our number one, forced the legal system to address it, forced it, it has to change. It has to, as I said before, evolve. So that's where we are right now. So David, I'm gonna go radio silence and let you go from there. So go ahead. Floor is yours, David, for more introductions.
Thanks for that introduction, and did bring back some memories. It was actually, I think, 2010 that we met. Guys, my name is Dave Puckett. I run a company called Cognitive Resolution Solutions, recently rebranded. We've had a product. I'm not here today to talk about my products. I'll probably actually talk a little bit more about my competitors and technology in general and what I've learned the last 8 to about decade. Although, just to put it in context, I became an accredited mediator in the state of Hawaii in 1987. Mark, it was one of the reasons I decided not to go to law school when I met my former wife at the University of Hawaii. We were both taking the LSAT and we were both on that trajectory, or objective, I guess you would say. But I've always had this passion for technology. I was a Navy cryptologist, and then combining it with mediation. I really became sold on mediation. And because I became so sold on mediation and the old, what was known as ADR, alternative dispute resolution, it was part of the reason that I decided not to pursue. I just didn't have a passion any longer to be a lawyer, and I stayed in the technology business. 1993, I started building a company in 1990. I sold it in 93, right here in Pinellas County. Mark, company you may or may not be familiar with that came out of Pinellas County and went public, Danka. They were a copier fax international PLC that started buying mom and pops and creating a national footprint. They bought us because we did technology integration in the legal industry in the larger law firms, a couple, Holland and Knight, Fowler White, Johnson Blakely up here in this area were clients of ours. And they liked our focus on the legal market, which of course, the legal market has a lot of copiers and printers. They sell copiers and printers, and they thought our client base with our knowledge of the legal system and how it works would help get more clients in time to computers. After I sold that company, my mentor is a guy named Dr. Ted Becker. He created the first community mediation center in the United States in Hawaii. It was very successful. By today's standards, I think a lot of people that are in the mediation business, including ones here in Florida, would love to have the success that Ted had even back in the mid to late 80s in Hawaii. If you think about Hawaii as one of the last states, thus one of the last states that we inserted the U.S. legal system into. Sorry, my cell phone beeped. I forgot to turn it off, so let me take this second and turn it off. within the last states we put the U.S. legal system into, they weren't necessarily a big fan of litigation and depositions and all this stuff that we know in the modern court vernacular. They were sort of, I don't say tribal, they had a king and a queen and that until they became, to statehood. And it was a natural for mediation. Jennifer, you with us? I guess you didn't really want to share your video. You want to stay a little incognito today?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I if you don't mind, I'd rather keep off video, but I'm here.
Okay. All right, just making sure to see no blank down there. So check your pulse every once in a while at least, or make a comment. I'll know you're here. I did, so I have to, Mark, I have to focus on you. And Stanley disappeared for a bit. I see his fancy conference room. But anyway, Hawaii was a natural state for it. And we joked today, guys, about ADR. And let's just say 5 decades that the ADR in America that we might know and heard of has been around. For at least 3 of those decades, if you talk to the practitioners in it, even the lead thought leaders of the methodologies that evolved into the practice of mediation, and you would have told them, even 3 decades ago, that someday in mediation, the parties in dispute, whether it's 2, 3, or more, are going to have their attorneys in the room, we'd have thought you were on crack, and we didn't even know what crack was 3 decades ago. It wasn't built for a need for for the parties in dispute to have an attorney. Okay. Even more crazy, if you would have told us 3 decades ago that the majority of all mediators would be either practicing or retired attorneys or judges, we'd have equally thought you were crazy. When the ADR people couldn't make any money because they couldn't turn on the flow of conflicts to the process or methodology, they came in the back door of the courtroom, so to speak, and said, hey, here we are, we're over here, we're an alternative. And it sort of got sucked into the vortex of the legal community. I'll make a political joke, and I don't bring politics in the workplace. Some people say Trump hijacked the Republican Party. Believe that or not, doesn't matter. Believe it or not, that the legal system hijacked the ADR system. Okay? And there was a vested interest to the legal system to hijack the ADR system, because the original ADR methodology, there wasn't no room for attorneys. There wasn't a room for a retired judge to be there. These retired judges, I take it, Jennifer, you're a practicing attorney. I couldn't find you on LinkedIn, and Mark, I see that you are. So I don't think either one of you are retired judges. But, these retired judges, and I've been on trainings with Stanley, they're about to hang up their robe. But when they get to become mediators, they will quickly be the first to remind you, hey, if you go to court, this is what the judge is likely to decide. Well, that's not what mediation's about. Okay. And it's a shame. And I'm, as a human and a former, keyword former, practicing mediator, I'm not a fan of mediation today. I was at lunch a year ago with a friend of mine, many year friend. He knows what I do, kind of. And he's going through a divorce. We grabbed lunch, and just out of the blue, he goes, don't you do mediation? And I go, well, yeah, indirectly. And he said, man, that is terrible. I said, what do you mean it's terrible? It's expensive. I said, I guess I hadn't thought of it in that context. I said, well, why is it expensive? It's not what it's supposed to be. And he says, well, because, and of course, he's got his lens on. Well, I just did 9 hours of mediation. I had to pay the mediator. I had to pay a room rental to do the mediation. I had to pay my attorney and her attorney. You know, and I go, why did you have to pay her attorney? Well, it's my money. It's in the divorce. And so indirectly I'm paying for it. I go, oh, okay. But I could see where he was going with that. That was never the intent. Okay. You know, I'm here to talk about the technology and its changes and impacts. But, you know, my final words, I assume Stanley's maybe recording this. And I don't get paid, by the way, to do this. And when he said there was only 2 of you guys, I said, well, okay, I'll come on. And he's, as we speak, he's doing me a favor while I'm talking to you. Stanley, by the way, it acts sort of a second. I mean, Stanley's a mediator. Stanley works at a gun range in South Florida. Stanley is a trainer. That's what you're all here for. Stanley's also president of Settle Now. So we have a working relationship. So he's doing me a favor as we speak, or as I speak to you all. So he knows that I'm very unhappy with the state of the industry. So we introduced a product, and not the original product. You all might have heard of a product called Cyber Settle. They're very, very successful. About 400 million in revenue in around 2014 or 15. Had about 400 employees, not that you measure success by employees. Number of employees. They were in New York City. They did online dispute resolution for self-insured cities. I didn't know until I became familiar with Cyber Settle. They tried to merge with us back in 2018, so we did a lot of due diligence. I didn't realize that most cities are self-insured for certain things, if not all. And they did, because the founders of this Cyber Settle were 2 attorneys. I had another competitor, you may or may not have heard of them, Modria, Modular Online Dispute Resolution, I forget what it stood for. They came out of eBay. Sure, both of you all have heard of eBay. eBay, for the last decade, on average, is resolving more than 60 million disputes online, 100% online. 90% of the 60 million without any human involvement whatsoever. There's a term on this slide. I haven't moved slides. It's my title slide. There's a term, artificial intelligence. Surely, regardless of where you all are in the technology awareness spectrum, you've heard of artificial intelligence. Probably most Americans were introduced to the concept of artificial intelligence when Ken Jennings played Watson, the AI robot, in Jeopardy. Okay. Well, eBay uses artificial intelligence to get those huge numbers of 90% of 60 million cases resolved with no human. Well, if you don't have any human, you don't have any cost. If I was to be invited to speak at the American Bar Association's convention this summer, or the Florida Bar Association's annual meeting or whatever, and I got up and I said, I've got products, the logos of which are down on the bottom of the screen and above my head here, that can resolve disputes without humans. 1, they wouldn't invite me, and 2, if they did, they wouldn't like my message. And there has been offers to have us acquire them. And I always got the feeling if they did acquire us, especially people within the legal industry, they didn't have any intent in growing us the way we wanted to grow. They almost wanted to bury us, if not, or have exclusivity in the market for themselves. Guys, this technology is real. You can't litigate it away. The legal community tried their darndest 20 years ago to get rid of LegalZoom. Look it up, Google it, UPL LegalZoom. But LegalZoom was founded by attorneys, one of which was one on the infamous OJ team. And they successfully defended themselves. So there's great legal precedence for companies like myself to be protected by the precedents, to be in this space when you all, not you guys, but when the industry comes after us, often beginning with UPL. Dr. Becker had waiting lines in his community mediation center in the middle of the 80s in Hawaii. And the Honolulu bar, the Hawaii bar, and the American bar lent some muscle to run him out of town, run him out of the islands. He ended up at Auburn University as a tenured professor there for 25 years. He was an attorney, by the way, third generation, his grandfather and his dad and himself. He just got disenchanted with the law and got hammered with ADR and worked a formula to make it work in a state that was really kind of open and hungry to it from a consumer point of view, to only end up being ran out of town by the industry over UPL. This belief that you can't possibly go, if Stanley and I have a conflict, and it's a heavy conflict, let's assume, there's just a general belief that we need to hire attorneys, file a complaint, and wait for the court to say mediate. Why can't we go to mediation first? Why can't, Mark, you be my advisor? Why can't I pay you $100 an hour, $150 an hour, $250 an hour to advise me on resolving my conflict with Stanley? Why does it have to involve litigation? Because it does, I guess. Did we lose Jennifer? Is she gone?
Yeah, but she's been having sporadic issues. She'll come back.
Okay. You're recording this, right, Stanley?
Yes.
Thank you. Why? Why do we have to litigate? Okay. Why can't the legal system wake up? There's too many attorneys. There's too many law schools. There's these large mega firms that are taking a disproportionate number and size of the marketplace. You can't compete against Walmart enters, and for all intents and purposes, we kind of almost have a Walmart and one or two firms we can name. You can't compete. I don't know how many people, Mark, that are dear, dear friends of that generation of lawyers, let's say, that might be somewhere between 40 and 60 today, including the lawyers that went to Stetson when my ex-wife was there, that goes, I wish I'd never become one, but it is what I am. Of course, many of them have become successful in their own right. They belong to the country club. Their kids go to private or Ivy League schools, and they have boats and houses. But are we really serving the legal community? Seriously, is the mediation industry truly serving fairly, equitably? If they are, why does, I think he's about the second or third past president of the Florida Bar, state publicly that 60 to 80% of the population of the state of Florida can't afford an attorney? And we can't pro bono it and clear our conscience that if you put X number of pro bono hours in, somehow it's okay. Okay. Enough about the industry's challenges. It is what it is. I'm not saying anything that anybody hasn't said. I'm saying, okay, there's a problem. There's a disparity. There's an opportunity to serve differently. There's these words on the slides that we know are out there in technology. Why does the legal industry ignore technology? Did Uber and Lyft call a cab company or a limo company or a transportation authority of a city to say, how do we get our app to work? How can we sell rides? Well, they went to the consumer. Did Airbnb call Hilton and Hyatt and say, how can I get into renting rooms? in your all's business, they're bigger than Hilton or Hyatt today in the number of rooms under management. Why couldn't Zip Settle, Settle Now, Cyber Settle, Virtual Courthouse, la da 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 do the same? We can. We're going to go straight to the consumer. There was a report in 2016 by the American Bar Association in which they predict the future of the legal industry. And they say there's going to be people in the legal industry offering at least quasi-legal services, if not things that today might be considered legal services, that are not law firms. I don't want to go against you guys. I want to go with you. But we created a product called Settle Now, launched it in 2014, almost like the movie Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, build it, they will come. It is arguably, and if I have any competitors that hears this video, I'll take them on in a product challenge. It's arguably the best product for mediators and arbitrators, case management routines, etc., video conferencing. But nobody's ever heard of it. I can guarantee when you all dialed in this morning, you heard Dave Puckett's going to speak. If you did, I don't know if Stanley had some kind of agenda. And here you see these logos. You never heard any of this stuff. We're a Florida corporation. We've been around since 2013. Nobody come. Then came COVID. Isn't it a shame that it took a pandemic to wake up the legal industry? 3 years ago, none of y'all ever heard of Zoom? Probably. Hell, I don't even know if 3 years ago I'd ever heard of Zoom. Skype, GoToMeeting, WebEx, FaceTime, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. You never heard of Zoom? But two words or terms that'll be in the vernacular for the rest of our lives are social distancing and Zoom calls. The legal industry's had a history of making not the best technology moves. One of the ones that I can remember from my era was y'all were on dedicated word processing systems like Wang when microcomputers came out. And when microcomputers came out, there were products like Lotus 123 and WordStar, which you've never heard of or hear of again. But there was another product called WordPerfect. And the legal industry jumped on that as the de facto word processing system within the legal industry. Yet where's WordPerfect at today? Okay. I'm not suggesting, I think Zoom's actually got a nice strategy. And Zoom is owned by, depending on the metric of which you judge or read, he's the fourth or fifth richest man in the world. Larry Ellison owns Oracle Corporation. Zoom trials, Zoom hearings, Zoom depositions, Zoom mediation. This first term over here to the far left, ODR, online dispute resolution. That term, you see ODR 2.0, Dave Puckett is here to talk to you all about ODR 2.0. And y'all probably maybe barely have heard of ODR, period, online dispute resolution. It isn't Zoom. Zoom is a video conferencing piece of software. Video conferencing is only part of the work that's needed to be done in a mediation. Settle Now is the other part, but nobody wants to buy it because you're just now thinking or not thinking. I see so much chatter on the internet that goes something like this. Of course, everybody can't wait till COVID ends, but it goes, I can't wait till COVID ends so we can go back to doing it the way we were. Sorry, folks, we're not going back there. We're not all going back to work in offices. The way we were in the manner and the numbers we were. Working from home now will be part of our way. You know, I always stand up. If you do online dispute resolution, I have a sports coat on. But down here, I got my sandals and my shorts. because you don't see anything but up, right? Uber drivers were people who have, Uber and Lyft drivers are people who have cars, most of which have full-time jobs, not all, but most, and they want to make some extra money. And that app matches people who want to ride with people who have a car and want to make some extra money. How long do you think it's going to be before legal services go that way? Come on, seriously, how long is it going to be? There's 120 universities in this country, Mark, including Notre Dame University of Notre Dame, excuse me, Harvard, Yale, Syracuse, Nova, Salisbury, Creighton, master's certificate, PhDs in conflict resolution, the psychology of conflict resolution. My other term, emotional intelligence. 90% of conflict is emotions. Attorneys don't do anything to reduce emotions. You go, well, that's probably not fair. Let me retract. Theoretically, attorneys do a service of reducing emotions because you represent, in many cases, emotional clients in a professional manner. But often, you don't represent your clients with enough emotions and they fire you because they don't think you're giving enough, doing enough, not doing it fast enough. Or sometimes you fire your clients because they don't listen to you. But the context of it is, Mark, if you and I had a conflict, let's assume for the sake of the example, if you and I had a conflict and it was, I feel like you stole some of my intellectual property and you wrote a book and you profited from the book, and I want you to share some of those profits. If me and you grabbed a Big Mac at McDonald's together, I guess there's some likelihood or possibility that we might resolve the conflict between you and I at the McDonald's. If we're in a McDonald's in a public place, we shouldn't make any spectacle, yelling and screaming at each other or calling each other names or whatever. But I'll guarantee if you've gotten to know Stanley, and you will by the end of this day, if Stanley went and had a McDonald's Big Mac with us, we'd have a lot greater opportunity to get that conflict resolved. He's a neutral. Stanley's a non-lawyer mediator. I consider him one of the best neutrals there are that I've encountered. Emotions have to be managed. Everybody of our age group, let's say 30 to 80, wide spectrum there, has taken the Myers-Briggs personality test. We all know our personality type. We answered X number of questions. Some of us that are in psychology probably try to figure out the psychology of the questions as we answered them. But in the end, it's done a very adequate, if not above average job at predicting our personalities. Fortune 1000 companies for 3 decades or more have used the Myers-Briggs personality test to hire. Using personality as a predictor of fitting into the culture of the company or the culture of the business unit of which you're going to be employed, or the type of job, sales, customer service. Well, guess what, folks? There are assessments like Myers-Briggs to assess your emotions. Okay? These are pretty good too. I'd argue they may even be better than the personality. So if you then take emotional intelligence assessment, and Mark, you have a level of emotional intelligence. I have a level of emotional intelligence. And, you know, I usually begin this, let me switch slides here because I know Stanley is recording this. Out of control emotions make smart people stupid. Okay. That is Daniel Goleman, who writes a lot about emotional intelligence. And then right down here on the screen, you see bad brands kill market opportunities. My $100 bill analogy. Okay. So Mark, what that is first of all, bad brands kill market opportunities. I'm not saying any of these brands across the top of my head are even very good. They're my brands. But I can tell you some that I'm not a big fan of. ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. I think it was a bad brand. What's the important word there? Alternative? Alternative to what? I think it was neat they came up with it. But the legal system seen it as it's an alternative to them. And the legal system sucked them into the vortex. And now it's part of them. I don't agree with it. And more importantly, consumers never said, I want to buy me some ADR. We're all after the consumer. Bad brand. ODR. ODR brand was created by a few academics and who I consider friends and mentors. I love them to death. I have immense respect for them. Bad brand. Nobody want to go out and buy no ODR. If I stood up in a busy restaurant in Dade County, Orange County, Hillsborough County, Manatee County, Orange County, whatever, in a busy restaurant at lunch, and I go, hey, folks, I got $100 bills to give away here. Pay attention to me. I'm going to ask some questions. If you answer the question, we'll give you a $100 bill. It's a brand test. What is ADR? Maybe if there's an attorney mediator in that lunch crowd. ADR, I might lose that $100 bill. But I have a pretty good chance I'd keep it. What's ODR? I don't know. What's settle now? Don't know. What's zip settle? Save that $100. Where can you buy yourself some mediation? Okay. Nobody knows. Okay. We have in our methodology up here at the top, if I'm going to promote any brand, this isn't anything you can buy. I don't sell. It's free. This is a TV station on YouTube. And the TV station promotes the methodology. Notice the byline of the methodology. Technology enhanced dispute resolution. Not technology to replace dispute resolution or replace attorneys. Pieces or components of technology to enhance the service of your all's clients. But you don't get it. You won't listen because you've been doing it the same way for 200 years, basically. And you don't want to listen to technology. Okay? I think that's going to change because of COVID. I think it's going to change because of the natural forces of the marketplace. Mark, you and I look like we're about the same age range. I graduated high school in 81, born in 63. You may be a little younger, but the future, the millennials, the top age of millennial today, they would be 40. The bottom age is 25. Okay. They've been buying stuff on the internet most of their life. My kids, both University of Florida graduates, by the way, go Gators, even though I'm a Miami Hurricane personally, but I'm Gator second. Well, I'm a Kentucky Wildcat and then Gator. That's where I'm coming from, Kentucky. Both daughters are Gator grads, architect and a Navy pilot. They'd rather text than talk. Makes me so mad as a father. That's generation, guys. Naturally, they're going to gravitate towards these products. you want to stay relevant in the market, you're going to have to embrace technology. Technology enhanced dispute resolution. Okay. So let me take a check on time because Stanley allows me to spend about an hour and a half, and I've already spent about 40 to 45 minutes. And I don't want to just talk. I want to answer questions or answer any questions you have. But let me hit these terms one more time and give you a couple of examples to explain each one of them in some level of detail, and then open it up to any questions you may have. And of course, if you have questions as I go along, just go, hey, Dave, what's that mean? ODR, online dispute resolution. Problem is there's no standards. Nobody really knows what it is. And I think it's a bad brand. But in theory, video conferencing was coming. The term came around the turn of this last decade, around 2000 to 2004 timeframe. Again, I said it was created academic think tank people that knew mediation, that knew technology, and go, hey, video conferencing could be a big plus. People don't have to drive across town. But in 2000 to 2004 or 5, you didn't have high-speed internet connections in the home. You didn't have 5G. And so video conferencing wasn't stable. It wasn't available. So it was almost like science fiction. But the founders of that, I wish I could mention their names, but I won't today. They deserve the credit for coming up with the brand. They brought it to us conceptually. They predicted that it would change the dispute resolution industry. It's 20 plus years later. It's now maybe starting to change it. And it's because of Zoom. Nothing they did or nothing I did. So it's way more than video conferencing. Let's break down, if we can, and Stanley jump and tell me if I'm wrong. A mediator comes into a room meeting with the disputants, and potentially often their lawyers, and he or she sets ground rules. How's it going to work? And explains the process and do's and don'ts. Then that mediator will allow you to make an opening statement. That mediator will remind the parties that while you're making an opening statement, the other party can't, interrupt, disrupt, object, any of that. It's an opening statement, much like a court. Then the mediator will go into private caucus, often, then joint caucus. And the mediator is trying to hopefully work towards a settlement agreement. That's a mediation. Okay? That's a methodology. What's the difference between mediation and facilitation? Nothing. You can facilitate a settlement. Conciliatory services. With conciliatory services, it could be mediation. It's just the ADR founders said mediation is this, what I just described to you. Okay, so the ODR founders said, well, you can do that online. Okay. Now, Stanley uses, I remember when Stanley started using Zoom, and he didn't much know, he knew more than I did, because I didn't use Zoom. I used Skype, I used GoToMeeting, I used WebEx. I was very proficient at it. Zoom comes along. Zoom is the legal industry's video conferencing. Stanley is forced to use Zoom, and Stanley was just learning how to use Zoom, and we were both stumbling through it. And I'm a technologist, okay? And still Stanley has an occasional technology bleep. But, Mark, private caucus. Think about a private caucus in a law firm conference room, or a mediation in a law firm conference room. You do your rules, you do your opening statements, and Stanley might say, okay, Mark, I want to ask you to go in the other room while I talk to your wife. If it's a marital mediation, or the disputant on the other side. You're welcome to go to our break room. We have a coffee pot on that. You're welcome to go out. We have a park next door. I'll text you if you leave the building, or I'll come get you when I'm ready for you. Okay? Pretty common. How do you do that on Zoom? How do you do that if somebody's recording it? Where's the recording? On your local hard drive? Is it recording in the sky? Is it recording? Is somebody else recording it and screen capturing it? Mediation is private. Mediation can't be brought into court. Okay? Nobody knows. Nobody trusts. Even Zoom had some problems coming out the gate on security. But I don't have a simple way to click and do a private caucus. Mark, I'm going to make you disappear, and I'm going to make you reappear, beam you up like Scotty on Star Trek when we're ready for you again, right? So it's an immature, it's a stable, darn stable technology, but it's immature or only capable as the technology proficiency of the people using it and the security. Okay. Next, e-negotiation. I've skipped over that term. Mark, since you're the only one here to pick on, so that I don't do all the talking, if I just use those two words, that term, e-negotiation, there is no wrong answers. Don't be scared or overthink it. What's e-negotiation mean?
Electronic negotiation.
Okay, that was pretty easy. What does that practically you think? What does that mean to you, Mark?
I mean, I guess part of it to me might mean negotiating using email or
Love it.
or some kind of video technology conversation.
I like it. Absolutely. Now, I like too that you included the word negotiation, because it does say e-negotiation. It doesn't say e-mediation. It doesn't say e-arbitration. It doesn't say e-facilitation. It says e-negotiation. Isn't a large part of what we do in most representation exercises or most mediations, negotiation. Why do we have to say mediation? Why do we have to have a certified mediator? Why don't we have a certified negotiator? Harvard has a certificate in negotiation. I think Notre Dame has a certificate in negotiation. There are professional negotiators. Okay. Do we need two negotiators? Can one negotiator negotiate for both parties? Why not? I have a competitor and friend, mentor, and partner, meaning we share technology. Smartsettle.com. Look them up. They're in Canada. Ernie Thiessen, Dr. Ernie. Love him to death. Dr. Ernie, I would attribute, he created the term e-negotiation, or at least brought it into our consideration and understanding. His product, Smart Settle 1. The second product is called Smart Settle Infinity. Ernie's in Canada, Mark, and the rest of the world, other than the United States, still does mediation traditionally. They don't bring attorneys. It's not a legal process. There's not all retired judges and attorneys as mediators. Okay. So Ernie does in his product, e-negotiation. You're negotiating against a computer. That's what eBay does. Okay. So what does that mean? Dave, explain that, please. Sounds cool, but how's that really work? Remember I told you eBay is resolving 60 million disputes, 90% without humans. Mark, you and I bought a car from you on eBay. you represented, because you posted a Carfax, it's never been accident, had all the service records of the vehicle history, and that you're the second owner, that you just bought it from the primary owner, you only have one owner, you're a transactional owner, and you're selling it to me. List the miles, pictures, I buy it. Pick a number, $36,000. It seems fair. It seems less than it might cost me to buy it in Pinellas County. It's the color I want. Great vehicle history. I buy it. You ship it to me. I put the money in PayPal. eBay had this stuff figured out a long time ago. PayPal, escrow, they have dispute resolution because you cross not only in Florida, we have 20 circuits or jurisdictions. You got 50 states. You got hundreds of countries. These transactions are across state line. What's the applicable law? The state law? What's the Mark, for the purpose of this, to make this example better, let's just assume you live in, I used to say Georgia because it's the next state, but Georgia, I'm mad at Georgia a little bit personally. But so let's say you lived in Atlanta and you sell me that car. What's the prevailing law? I guess based on it is the transaction was done through eBay in the cloud, PayPal's in California, but you sold the car in Georgia, so I guess it's Georgia. Okay. Now, I go to my mechanic a month after the transaction and I'm bragging about it. I need to get a tune-up. I said, man, I stole this car. I saved $5,000 buying it online. My mechanic looks at me and he goes, well, what'd you pay for it? I said, $36,000. Well, for being a wrecked car, that's a pretty good price. I said, well, it isn't wrecked. Here is the Carfax. Posted the day I bought it from Mark. Well, guess who wrote the fine print in Carfax and auto check? Some great corporate attorneys. Because you know what it says? They're not responsible for the last 90 days. Because Mark, you could have bought it from Stanley. Stanley could have ran the Carfax and gave to you. But Stanley could have picked that car up from the body shop. And the body shop hadn't turned it into Carfax and auto check, so it hadn't made the vehicle history yet. You could be a duped victim like me. But I'm a consumer, was a little leery about buying a car online, and now I've got a problem. I'm probably mad as hell. Well, let's say obviously I'm pretty familiar with the legal system and dispute resolution. It's my profession. I'd probably be thinking, because I am familiar, I'm going to call the Attorney General of the state of Georgia and turn Mark in for criminal misrepresentation. He's probably doctoring the Carfax. There's a criminal act here. But then I have a civil suit. And in all likelihood, if I want to litigate it or mediate it, I got to go to Georgia. I don't know anybody in Georgia. I don't even like Georgia. But I got to go hire me an attorney in Georgia to sue you. You got a cheap attorney. If it's inclusive of the legal fees of a case like this, it'd probably be a $2,500 retainer. And I might win. It might take me 18 to 36 months to win. But when I win, Mark, I don't even know if you're worth the money. You have the money and you may not no longer be in Georgia. I know what you're saying, possibly because you're an attorney with Dave. They got small claims court. You don't have to hire an attorney. Go through the small claims court, go through mediation. I still spend $1,000. Filing fee in small claims here in Florida at that dollar amount is $500. I don't know if I want to get that $500. I'm going to ask for the fee to be paid for you when I win against you, but I don't know. So what do? The software says, do you have a dispute, Dave? Or you go to, it's called the dispute engine in eBay. I got a dispute. Software says, Dave, is that dispute with the E320 Mercedes? I go, yes. Why does it know that? It's my last transaction. Is it with Mark? Yes. What's your dispute? Pull down menu. Undisclosed accident. Guess what the next thing I get, Mark? I get the yellow highlighted fine print in Carfax and AutoCheck. It says they have 90 days. That diffuses my emotions, doesn't it, Mark? Because where I was thinking before I filed this dispute, you had fraudulently or even doctored the Carfax. I now understand you may not have known. Okay. Changes one aspect of my anger and emotions, but I still paid too much. So the software says, do you want to return the car for a full refund, Dave, including the shipping from Mark, or what? Partial refund? Pull down. Yeah. Next question. Partial refund based on Kelley Blue Book or NADA.com? Yes. It brings up the Mercedes, the miles, condition, and the little meter of the range of price. Right from Kelley, right from NADA. Artificial intelligence. Dave, what do you want? I want Mark to pay me $3,500 based on the value of excellent condition to fair because he didn't disclose the accident. No humans. You get it, Mark. What could Dave do to you? He could sue you, or I could trash you on eBay and across the internet. Mark selling wrecked cars. That's your business. That hurts your reputation. You maybe feel a little bit sorry for me. Maybe you're a little bit angry that that guy Stanley sold you that car, didn't disclose the accident either. In all likelihood, if you sell cars for a living, you should be able to eyeball a wrecked car. The average person wouldn't necessarily have a trained eye to look for that kind of stuff. Okay? But you could have had a legitimate unknown situation. You may be mad at Stanley, want to pursue Stanley, but we still got a dispute. So you say to me, Dave, I'll meet you in the middle, $1,750. I'll refund it to your PayPal account. Saves your reputation, reduces the threat of, removes the threat of litigation. We sign an agreement. Done. No humans. That's artificial intelligence. Now you're going, well, Dave, that's a poor example because that's a one-dimensional conflict buy-sell transaction. I work with very complicated, multi-dimensional disputes. Sorry, I can work with any kind of dispute. That's why I have multiple products. Zipsettle.com, again, I'm not here to talk about my products. You can't buy anything from me anyway unless you want to become one of my customers. Okay. You know how much I charge on Zipsettle? Take a guess, Mark. What do you think I charge for a simple dispute?
$100.
$98. You know why I charge $98?
Why?
That's $49 for me and $49 for you. You know what? Do you think as a consumer you might not invest $49 or $98 to try it before you pick up the phone and call a lawyer? Before you file a lawsuit? I mean, shit, even if it don't work, even if it's a waste of $49 or $98, it's cheaper than calling an attorney. You think these millennials won't try it? What if I get 1 million people on an app to pay me $98? Zipsettle's got $98 million. Did your law firm grace $98 million last year? Okay. That's the scale, guys. That's where this is going. Okay. Now, I've talked about emotional intelligence already. I've talked about artificial intelligence. So let me give you a real life. Stanley, give me a time check. How are we doing? Stanley's probably taking a nap. Let me look.
Hate when you say that. Give me time. You are so impatient. I'm always. You're
All
doing
right, so I got about 20 minutes left.
you're good. You're fine. You're good.
Yeah, Jennifer, you left out on us, and so you missed the big
I'm
part.
sorry. I had to divert a little bit. I'm sorry,
Oh,
but I'm here.
You missed it. Maybe if you care enough as you hear the end that I'm partially interesting, you can go back and listen to it, but maybe not. So,
I will.
okay, I'm kidding with you, of course. Emotional intelligence. Okay, so we're gonna pick on you, Jennifer. We picked on Mark while you're gone. There's not a wrong or right answer. I mean, any answer could be right. There's not a wrong answer. What is emotional intelligence? And give me an example of emotional intelligence in the law.
Emotional intelligence, an example of emotional intelligence in the law, in the
Yeah.
practice of law.
Yeah.
Let me think. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think what I said earlier about maintaining, for lack of a better term, a poker face is a little bit of the emotional intelligence that I try to use, and not being, not being dramatic or not dramatic, or showing too much, or actually showing too much emotion one way or another, and just maintaining control one way or another.
You're talking about you as an attorney are doing a service for your client by having a professional approach to the resolve of this conflict emotionally, and that you're even going far enough further in that you're keeping sort of a poker face to not to let out the emotions that you might be.
So I think of it as like my kids, right? Like, I don't know, this is like my life. I just think of it as with children versus adult. Like, when your child comes up to you and says, oh, they're crying, they're so upset about something, they got hurt or whatever, and you also as a parent start freaking out, that just exacerbates the problem. So you have to maintain that control and cool, even though you want to be upset or you want to join them in that misery. But I think that a lot of the time, life, like everything else, is a lot about perception and how people perceive your strength. And so that's what I mean, at least if I don't honestly feel it, I try to give people confidence by just, acting confident or controlling any other type of emotion that you might want to have, because that's what they're paying you for. They want to feel comforted that you have control.
Okay. Well, I'm not. Okay. So you're a little disadvantaged because you had to leave for a little bit, and I don't want to repeat it all for Mark. You can go back and listen when you get a time. Emotional intelligence is a subfield of psychology. Okay. And there's a Myers-Briggs personality test that measures your personality. Companies make hiring decisions based on the culture of the business unit, type of job. There's emotional intelligence assessment. It's called EQ2. There's a dozen other ones. I like EQ2. I tell you, you know this, 90% of a conflict is emotion. As counsel, attorneys representing your clients, you try to diffuse the emotion by being non-emotional in your representation, but your clients are emotional. Sometimes your clients' emotions, they get mad at you because you're not emotionally representing them properly to the degree of which they fire you. You're not giving them the right attention or whatever. But it gets back to the original conflict. And if you can't electronically determine the emotions of the parties, Mark, you could even, eBay software could talk to you differently because it's categorized your emotions in advance of how you react. Pick different phrases of approach. That can be embedded in artificial intelligence based on your emotions. My software, you have an option to take the EQ2 test. And then if you optionally opt into that, then the software then communicates to you in a different way based on your emotions. Now, Jennifer, I liked your answer because I always say to Stanley, when I throw these kind of open-ended questions out there and people kind of throw me a softball, then, we hit it out of the park. So you brought up your children. Theoretically, children have a lower level of emotional intelligence. And Jennifer, you missed the $100 bill analogy about brands, and where I trashed ADR, ODR, and now I'm going to trash emotional intelligence. I think it's a terrible brand. That's why we now call it EQ. Why? When I started dating after my divorce 8 years ago, when I was getting into emotional intelligence, the girl I was dating heard me talk about emotional intelligence all the time. And she thought somehow it was like an IQ test, that I was somehow more intelligent than her. Now, I do have two master's degrees in psychology, but that don't matter. Don't matter. I got 10 degrees. I got a PhD in psychology. Don't make me more emotionally intelligent. I am a sum of my DNA, because the chemicals and actions in our brains do control our emotions. But we also have learned patterns of behavior as we grew up, watched our parents, watched everybody that's influenced us, how we handle emotions until our buttons are pushed. Okay? So children, you guys, y'all may or may not have read the book, Getting to Yes, written by Harvard-educated staff Urian Fisher. Often used in mediation training. It's often used in negotiation training. It's often used in sales training. So Jennifer, they use a story in an earlier edition. I don't think it's in the current edition. I may be wrong. I haven't looked at it honestly in a while, probably 10 years. It's a bit dated. It's a little bit sexist in this modern world. I don't know if we could get by with some of this analogy they present, but it's a little simple story. It's called the orange theory. Orange meaning a piece of fruit. Two teenagers fighting over an orange. Okay. My competitor, Dr. Ernie Thiessen at Smart Settle, coined the term emotional intelligence. eNegotiation. We're talking about emotional intelligence now, but I'm going to give him credit. You electronically negotiate. So Mark, what he said is if you electronically negotiate versus face-to-face, I never fully addressed your last answer. If you electronically negotiate versus face-to-face, both parties, keyword, both parties will get 16 to 20% more than they would have settled for. Now, guys, when I heard that as a student in about 2009, I thought Dr. Ernie and his dissertation, he was on crack. How in the world could you get both parties get 16 to 20% more? Because that's 40% potentially of the settlement amount. Back to the orange. Back to Jennifer's answer about her diffusing the emotions of her children. Back to the agreement that we hope, I'm 58, I hope my emotional intelligence has evolved as I've gotten older. I hope that I'm better at dealing with my emotions than I might have been at 12, 10. I remember, I'm old school parent. If I'd thrown a fit emotionally in a Walmart, there wasn't even Walmarts when I was a kid, in Kentucky anyway, my dad had just whipped my ass right in the store. He taught me how to control my emotions with it. Timeouts might be a little different in today's parenting. But back to the orange, Jennifer, in the sake of time, I'm going to pick on you a little bit and then go ahead and answer instead of having the dialogue. You know, so if a parent, well, all right, so you got two teenagers fighting over an orange. If a parent, a mediator, or an attorney is a witnessing party, they might have different approaches to the teenagers. Okay. Now, forgot an important part. In the Urian Fisher book, what they disclose as you read the book is the background on a dispute is this. The boy, this is the sexist part, the boy wants the fruit, the entire orange. He wants to eat it and he don't want to share. He's hungry. The girl had read a recipe that morning for orange flavored cake. And the recipe says you need the peel of one orange for the zest. If we knew what they wanted, I don't care whether you're a parent, attorney, or mediator, you go, you can both get 100% of what you want. Here's the peel, here's the orange, the dispute's over. But people don't disclose. People don't have the opportunity to disclose what they want, what they're really after. When they hire us as attorneys, oh, not us, because I'm not an attorney. When they hire an attorney, what can you get me? How much of the orange can I get? What's the law allow? Mark, you look like a good attorney. You might go, you hire me, give me a $2,500 retainer. I'll get you the whole orange plus legal fees. Maybe get you 2 oranges. Okay. Back to parents, Jennifer. My dad would have said, if y'all don't quit arguing over that damn orange, I'm going to eat it. And neither one of you are going to get nothing. We just both got less than 100% of what we actually wanted. My dad ate the orange. Modern parenting, or like semi-modern parenting, or sweet, we'll call it sweet parenting. You guys don't fight over that orange. I'll go to the grocery store and buy another one tomorrow. You both have an orange. Well, no one need to do that. If somebody tells you if they actually disclose what they were after in this dispute, the modern mom could fix it, right? What would the attorney? Yeah. So what would I've already told you what some attorneys might say. Give me a $2,500 retainer. I'll sue and file a complaint and whatever, and get you an orange. It's a little bit of a joke towards you attorneys. You got to laugh at yourself. Mediator. Stanley gets paid by the hour. He probably has a quarter-hour intervals, I guess. I don't know if Stanley has a fee structure is.
Full hour, baby.
Huh?
You going over 5 minutes? Full hour.
Full hour. Okay. So Stanley's got, I don't know what Stanley charges per hour, and I don't want to hear Stanley. It's like, I'm just going to use this story. Stanley charges $150 an hour. Hope it's more than that, but if it isn't, fine. Okay. So Stanley is in the opening statement of the mediation is the 2 teenagers go, all I want is the peel. All I want is the fruit. Well, if they could do that, they wouldn't be arguing. So it's not likely to come out in the opening statement. But we all know Stanley is one of the best mediators. And when it gets in that private caucus, the little girl says, I just want the peel. Well, man, it's soft. But Stanley gets paid 1 hour. That's it. Okay. Now, what if there's a third party, Mark, to the conflict, and that party wants the seeds of the orange so he or she can plant orange trees and get abundance of oranges? All 3 parties could get 100% of what they want from 1 orange. Mark, I told you I lived on my boat in Braden, Kentucky. That's what we call it. I'm from Kentucky. I always call it Braden, Kentucky. Palmetto. I lived on this 50-foot trawler. I'm telling at the bar at Riviera Dunes, whatever they call it today, grill, I think they call it. I'm telling the story. Somebody asked me, what do I do? Explain, settle down, zip settle. So I tell them the orange story. And the dude who pumps the refuse off of the boat that works at the marina is hearing me tell the story. And he's like, come over here. That's a great story, he says. And I said, okay. And he says, well, you know where I worked before I got a job here? I said, no. He said, Tropicana orange juice. It's in Bradenton. I said, okay. He goes, do you know how we make our money at Tropicana orange juice? I said, selling orange juice. He goes, yeah, of course. But we sell pulp. We sell fragrance. We sell acid. We sell chemical derivatives. There's a lot to get from an orange if you know what you want. You didn't know the third guy wanted the seeds. You guys don't ask your clients what they want. You try to get what you can get because the other party doesn't disclose. Jennifer, you already said you got a poker face. I'm not picking on you. You're a good lawyer, it sounds like. The process is broken.
I like to think so.
Well, you sound like you are. Stanley actually told me a bit about all of y'all's backgrounds. As he said, you're only going to have 2 people to talk to today for free, Dave. And so they're probably neither one of them will buy anything from you, but maybe you'll touch them through your evangelism and they'll go out and spread the word. Okay. Don't know. But I hope you hear what I'm saying. I'm not here to talk about Settle Now, Zip Settle, my TV station that's pure methodology. Y'all can, I'd love to interview you guys on it because it's a methodology TV station. That's what we're here to pass the message. But back to kind of finish this and wrap this all up. So you get a good feeling that the software asks what you want. Not my software, all softwares. Cyber Settle, founded by two lawyers representing self-insured cities, said, tell us what you want in the software, and the algorithm will help you get to the middle. Guess what? How many mediators use Cyber Settle? 0. They don't involve mediation. It's electronic negotiation. I already told you, 60 million disputes settled at eBay annually for more than a decade. That's 600 million disputes. Only 10% of them went to mediation. There was all 600 million avoided litigation. Likely no attorney even knew about these 600 million cases. Millennials are going to do this different, guys. Jennifer, I have no idea because I couldn't find you on LinkedIn and your age. By the time
I am not a millennial. I was born in 1980, and I'm one of the non-millennial 1980ers. So.
Okay. Well, you're a little younger than Mark and Stanley and I. And so I said earlier, and my daughters who are 27 and 25, they are millennials and they do everything online. And they don't even like to call me. They do or text me. Okay. It's quicker, easier. It makes me mad, but it is what it is. So, all right. So the final thing on emotional intelligence is this, and final little analogy. I've already told you a little bit of background. I got into internet dating in 2013 when I became divorced. I was excited. I'm a technology guy. I was like, I'm too busy. I'll find her. Okay. I found the first one. I was like, damn, this is easy. I don't know why people was complaining about this. Man, I wish they had this around in 1981 when I got out of high school. I could have got a better choice in the first go around. Okay. So I can't mention her name. Even if I did, it would be in a favorable thing. I don't ever say anything unfavorable about anybody, but I'm going to tell a story and protect the identity. On the first date, she tells me her dad is from Kentucky. Bonus. Tells me her dad went to this high school. Same high school I went to. I went to all boys Catholic high school. Okay. Tells me what hospital he was born in. The same hospital I was born in. Man, she's beautiful. Kentucky, Florida. Man, I didn't have those search criteria in Match.com. Bonus. A couple of weeks go by, I'll go out a couple more times. Her mom and dad are divorced. And I said, hey, I love to cook. That's one of my passions and hobbies. I reduce some of my stress on a daily basis. Because I want to cook dinner for your dad, meet him, talk some Kentucky stuff. Okay. He comes over. We ate a great meal, of which I cooked in my inside bar in my house and just sitting there. And we go to the outside bar, sitting on the water, live on Treasure Island. And she stays in and kind of cleans up. She wanted to give me some time with her dad. And here I'm now sitting with dad, having a bourbon, like all good Kentucky people. And he says, hey, you like my daughter? And I said, well, yeah, yes, sir, I do. Well, I think she really likes you. I said, well, man, I thank you for saying that. But I hear you're into all this psychobabble bullshit. And I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, well, I hear you're like in mediation, arbitration, and facilitation, negotiation, and, all this. Well, yeah, yes, sir, that's my feeling. Don't try any of that with my daughter. You know, she's almost 40, and she's been married twice already. And I said, yes, sir, I was aware. He goes, why do you think she's already been married twice? Not even 40 years old. I said, well, maybe she made a wrong decision. He goes, well, it might be part of it. She's hard to get along with. I said, wow. And he goes, you're from Kentucky, right? And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, you ever heard of the Hatfields and McCoys? And I said, yes, sir. My mom's maiden name was Hatfield. So, you ever spend any time with your grandparents when you grew up? Well, yes, sir. I probably was kind of co-raised by my grandparents. I said, okay. So
I lived with mine, so I can relate.
So did she. I said, oh, interesting. She never shared that yet. Did your grandparents ever fight when you grew up? I said, like, fight? What do you mean? Like, argue? Argue? Throw stuff? Do anything? I said, well, they probably had arguments, but they never did it in front of my brother and I. Hers did. And if they got really mad, and they got mad often, if they got their Hatfields, when they got really mad, they threw stuff. And she's seen it. So before she comes out, I got some advice of how you can date my daughter. He goes, I hear you have a boat that you can sleep on. I said, yes, sir. I hear you exercise pretty much daily, running and walking. I said, yes, sir. He said, so I'm going to tell you what to do. If she gets a little mad at you, go for a short run. You come back, she won't even remember why she got mad at you. He said, if she gets kind of mad at you, go for a long run. Come back, she won't even remember it. If she gets really, 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 really mad at you, go sleep on that boat. Come back the next day. Don't think I'm making this up. That's exactly what happened. And he says, if you sit down and try any of your psychobabble bullshit with her, you're going to get something thrown at you. Okay. Now, we dated for a little less than 6 months, and she never throw anything at me, but I followed his advice. And why I bring that in when I try to explain emotional intelligence, I already told you, she goes, what do you think you're more emotionally intelligent than me because you've got 2 master's degrees in psychology? No, it's not an IQ score. Mark, I assume if you went to Notre Dame, you have some Catholicism in your background. Catholicism, when you get married, requires pre-Cana. Okay. And they teach you, whether it's a couple weekends, 1 weekend, every diocese does a little bit differently. Each church probably does too a bit. When I did it, it was a weekend on the island of Maui because we got engaged in Hawaii and we did our pre-Cana in Hawaii before getting married on the mainland. I think they should put this emotional intelligence test in the pre-Cana. Because if you would have, I finally got this young lady I dated after we broke up to agree to take the emotional intelligence test because it was very interesting to me. When you get the results of your personality test, you go, yeah, that's me. That's my personality. That doesn't mean, Mark, you would think that was my personality, or Jennifer, you think that's my personality, or Stanley has known me for a decade. Go, I don't know if they got one that right. David's probably trying to answer the questions psychologically. He probably skewed the outcome of the damn personality assessment. Same for emotional intelligence. But I'll tell you what, when I seen hers, I knew why we didn't work. Everywhere she peaked, I validated. Everywhere I peaked, she validated. There's a lot of intelligence in that EQ2 intelligence test assessment. There's a dozen of them. I just like that one the best as a psychologist. But I embed this in my software, then I can use it to feed the artificial intelligence. That's my presentation today. There's a great interview. This is not a self plug. This is a plug. He'll be 89 in November. He was my mentor who got me started by his accreditation program in the Community Mediation Center in Hawaii. All you do is go to YouTube, by the way, out of a technical thing. What are the 2 largest search engines in the world, Mark? 2 largest internet search engines.
Google and YouTube.
Yeah, it's good you said that. You know who owns YouTube?
Google, I don't know.
Yeah, Google. So the 2 largest search engines in the world are YouTube first. Google first, YouTube second, and Google owns them both. Okay. So not, some people go Yahoo or, whatever. No, clearly Google, YouTube. Well, go to YouTube, type in TDR TV, Technology Enhanced TV. Hopefully in another few months, there'll be more videos. There's about a dozen. Stanley's on there. He's got a couple of nice videos, short, 3-4 minutes. But there's an hour-long video of me interviewing my mentor, Dr. Becker. If you ever have an hour, I wouldn't say to waste, but to spend. If my presentation made you at all interested, listen to him because he talks about the law. He talks about mediation, how it's evolved. He talks about what he's done since being involved with me. And he gives his thoughts at 88 soon to be 89 on the future. So I thank you all for the opportunity. If Stanley allows, I can answer a couple of questions. If not, the last slide, Stanley will probably send out all of the slides. Oh, you know, I honestly, I think I go back here. Let me see real quick. I can't go. Let's see, how do I go back here? Stanley, I always get this wrong. Oh, I know. Here it is. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. This, by the way, it's a poor graphic, but that's the output of the original EQ1 assessment. Now we got EQ2, but that's your peak and valleys on the EQ. That's me. That's how to get a hold of me. Love talking to people. Loving if y'all have big groups to talk to. I love to talk to folks and try to evangelize and convert. But watch the video. I hope it helped. Give feedback to Stanley if I was any good or if it was a waste of an hour and a half. And any questions?
Never a waste and a half. But listen, even in a section like Jennifer deals with large physician groups, like hundreds. I'm not sure the kind of conflicts. I'm not sure if it's just malpractice or other maybe CPT code stuff or coding issues. But how would you figure that type of area deal with technology? I mean, is that something that?
Well, yeah, I didn't get a chance to. You mentioned the background of both Mark and Jennifer. So I think I understand your question. And so, Jennifer, what I would say is this to Stanley's question: to use this kind of technology, whether you did it with me, with my competitor, or you did it on your own. We're launching this weekend 2 new websites. No, we don't have a goal just to put a bunch of websites out there. But Stanley, your question, I think it's a good feed. We're coming up, every type of conflict could be resolved by the engine. I have 2 engines, Settle Now, which is an engine that requires mediators or arbitrators. It don't work without a human. Zip Settle, that works without a human, backed up with a human. So it does both. Now, to Stanley's question, and giving you an example of my 2 new URLs, we have a URL called Our Family Settle. Our Family Settle will do divorce, modification of family plans, disputes between siblings in the care of your elder parents, and disputes between siblings after your parents are gone, estates, inheritance issues. Why? To me, that's a segment of disputes that could funnel into an engine, and you kind of got to market it to them. My next site this weekend, Our Home Settle. I told you I was bad at brands. I made fun of other brands. I'm not saying my brand is good. What is Our Home Settle? Foreclosure, eviction, HOA, and general real estate disputes, especially disputes in that slow up the sale of real property. You come through our engine and we resolve the dispute from you. You may have missed, I think you probably might have come back on, Jennifer, at the same time. We charge $98 when no human has to be involved. Our start point for 3 hours is $249. Now you're probably going, whoa, how do you divide that and pay a mediator? We use facilitators trained and certified in our product that have master's or master certificates or PhD in conflict resolution, not lawyers, not Supreme Court certified mediators. But you can raise the fee. So you could start in the medical industry, to Stanley's question, your own business, hire us to build the front end funnel, charge whatever you want, and use our type services, or my competitors would be more than glad to do that too. Stanley, does that answer what you were wanting me to ask out of that question?
Yes.
Okay, guys, anything else? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, Mark. I'm sorry for picking on you. You were the only guy I could see for a bit and enjoy it. I may, by the way, Mark, if by this time next year, live in Manatee. And depending if I do, I might have a condo or a house in the Riviera Dunes community, or I may move back to me. If I don't find a woman to date of any regularity, I might just go back and live on my boat anyway. So it was a good life for me.
Too much information, David.
All right. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye.
I love I love David, but he's just too TMI. He's just like, it's just like, really, bro. All right, let me pause.
So I guess his